What is going on, everybody? It is your boy, man. Back out with yet another review. And today we're going to be reviewing the newest addition to the 28 franchise. That's what I'm going to call it, at least. 28 years later. But before we get into sexual, beginning of the review itself, guys, don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel, because number one, it's absolutely free. Number two, also maybe help with the YouTube algorithm. And I recommend the video to more people, and maybe they could join. And do feel free to comment your thoughts on this film down below. With that being said, guys, let's go into let's go quick plot synopsis of the film, shall we? So, transition and
It's been almost 3 decades since the Rage virus escaped from a biological weapons laboratory. Still living in a ruthlessly enforced quarantine, some have found ways to exist amid the infected. One such group of survivors lives on a small island connected to the mainland by a single heavily defended causeway. When one of them decides to venture into the dark heart of the mainland, he soon discovers a mutation that has spread to not only the infected, but other survivors as well.
Alright, so going into 28 years later, this was actually one of my most anticipated movies of the year. It was definitely in the top 10. And I did not watch any of the previous two movies before seeing the first trailer. I saw the first trailer and I thought it was an amazing trailer. Immediately made it up into my top 10 most anticipated movies of the year. And then, building up to this, I watched those two movies, and building up to 28 years later, I both thought those were phenomenal films. So, going into this one, I was hoping it would be phenomenal, but I was also a little bit worried because all the early reactions, are 50-50. There's not anybody walking out of the movie saying it's bad, but there's 50% of people saying it's disappointing. And then there's disappointing but good, and then there's 50% of people loving the film. So, which side did I end up being on? Let's just see. Alright, so starting off with the good here, I have the characters and the acting. I think this one has probably...
Maybe a hot take, but maybe the best characters of this whole entire franchise. At least it's tied with number 1. Particularly with the new character of Spike in this movie, played by Alfie Williams. Definitely one of the most likable kid characters I've seen in a horror movie in a little bit. Then you also have Aaron Taylor-Johnson as his father, and Jodie Comer in here as well, that are great characters in their own right too.
You as well do have this doctor character that's introduced, played by Ralph Fiennes, which I thought he did great in his little role as well, and I hope we get to see more of him in the 2 upcoming sequels, because I found him to be a very interesting character whenever he's on screen. I, as well, thought the new zombies we get in here were terrifying, especially how they've evolved over time. I'm not going to go into specifics here, but they were absolutely very, very scary, which brings me to my next positive, the gore. Some of the kills or attacks that these zombies have in this film is taken straight out of a classic little 80s horror movie, action movie, if you will. That I thought those kills were just awesome. It pops up twice in the film, so I was going, oh my gosh, that's so wickedly cool. I loved that. As well, this does have some very, very tense sequences in here. There's one in
particular where our main character, Spike, and his father are trying to get back to the land that they live on, and it has this one zombie chasing after them that I thought was very, very, very tense. As well, some of the sequences in the dark I thought were quite scary.
As well, do think this film looks very, very good and very, very different compared to the other 2 films that we've gotten in this franchise. It actually looks really, really good, especially when you find out that this whole entire film is shot on iPhone. I thought it looked even more phenomenal just learning that fact, so it looks great with all that, which brings me to another positive. The further world building that you get in here with this whole entire bone temple that we see in the trailers, and then that's probably going to be even more developed with the up-and-coming sequel, Bone Temple, I believe. It's either a sequel or spin-off, correct me if I'm wrong. but that comes out in January, so I'm excited to see that further world building with that. As I said before, the further development with the zombies over time with the 28 years I thought was interesting and added to the world. And yeah, I thought the world building was great. And the final positive I have in here is the directing by Danny Boyle, which he did great.
Directing the last two films, and in here it's probably even more so just by the fact that, again, this film is directed with an iPhone instead of a camera, so that makes it even more impressive.
So that is the good done. Now let's move on to the mixed aspects of the film, which I only have 3. I have 3. The first one being the new concept that they add in here. I'm not going to go into specifics because it does involve spoilers. But among what I said with the zombies that we get in this film, how like developed they are, they add this also new element within it too that I found odd. It makes it not feel as grounded as the other two, but I think it is possibly something that with the next 2 sequels could be enhanced better to make me actually like the direction that they took with this film. I think that Aaron Taylor Johnson's involvement I was also very, very mixed on. I like his role in the film, but particularly later on, there's a part of me where I was going, I feel as if he should be a bigger
part of the story right now, but in this movie, in the middle part of the film, he kind of feels sidelined, and I was hoping to see him again in a proper main role, but he doesn't, unfortunately.
The final the final mixed aspect I have in here is it abandoning the concepts that was in the last film. So, if you watched the last film, you remember the whole entire, like, eye carrier thing that they had with that film with the main kid character and his mom. In this film, they don't really further develop that, which I was going, okay. Because where it's mixed is that I do get it's 28 years later, so it is some things that have happened in the past, so definitely zombies and the virus does develop over time. However, I was just going, it's kind of odd that they're not exploring that even further in the sequel. So that had me confused a little bit. Not a lot, because I do, as I said before, I do understand because the characters, the whole entire world as a whole develops over time. So there's that. But that's the mixed done. Now let's move on to the bad, which I only have 2. One is very minor, and that would be some of the green screen and CGI does not look good at points. But for the most part, it does. However, for my big negative of the movie is the last 3 minutes that they tack on to this film.
For the most part, this film is very, very dark and brooding, just like the last 2 films. But then they tack on this very, very campy ending where it shouldn't really be campy, but they make it campy. So that made me just go, why are we here?
So yeah, that really, really just puzzled me. Why is that in this film? For the most part, that is actually just serious. That confused me very, very much. So hopefully they find a way to fix that in the next film. I don't know. But that's only really my big negative and my little negative of this film. Now let's bring out the toxic meter. And as for me, I'm on the side that ended up loving this film. I'm going to give it an A+, not toxic. I thoroughly loved this. This might, depending on how I feel tomorrow when I do my ranking, this might be my favorite out of the trilogy, which I know is probably going to be a hot take, but it's my list or whatever for tomorrow. So we'll just see. We'll just see how I'm feeling. It depends. But all 3 are fantastic films, though. But, yes, thoroughly loved this. I don't necessarily understand the disappointment in all of it. But ladies and gentlemen, that's just my thoughts on 28 Years Later. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on this film down below. But with that being said, guys, I'll see y'all next one, everybody. Peace out.